Hello and welcome into Illini Drive, WPGU 1071. Isaac Trotter joined alongside Brian Binz, our lovely producer Tatiana Perry behind the desk, and our other co-host Eli Schuster. He may join us a little late. He is in a meeting right now with the Chancellor of the University of Illinois. Kind of a big deal, right?
Big deal, yeah.
Welcoming in Brian Binz alongside
a little sad we're not bigger than that, but
yeah,
one day.
We just wanted to talk sports. We didn't want to talk to the University of Illinois Chancellor. But anyway, we have a huge show planned for you. Illinois football will take on Wisconsin this week at 11 o'clock on Saturday. Catch that game on FS1. Illinois will play Wisconsin. Wisconsin's number 23 in the nation. They're the number one rushing team in the Big Ten. Illinois' rushing defense is 13th out of 14 teams in the Big Ten, so it'll be a really big challenge for Illinois. Wisconsin's offensive line, they got 5 guys who are, top 5 to 10 prospects in the NFL. All 5 guys have a chance to make a lot of money in the pros, so we'll definitely break that game down. We're 3 weeks away from Illinois basketball getting underway. Brian Binz will cover Illinois basketball for the Daily Illini. I will help cover Illinois basketball for IlliniInquirer.com, so we'll definitely want to break that team down. And you see little snippets today, the Illinois basketball Twitter account put a couple highlight videos together. We see some more big-time dunks, more dunks than we probably saw in the last 2 or 3 years combined is what we've been seeing from this team, so it should be really fun and good to break that down with Brian coming up a little bit later. We also want to talk a little bit of NBA. Got the opening day started a couple days ago. We want to also really just want to talk about these rookies. So there's been some dynamic rookies that have played early, and we'll break those down too. And LeBron James, of course, makes his Laker debut tonight. They'll play Portland. The Bulls will play the Sixers starting at about 7 o'clock. You can catch that game on TNT. The TNT Bulls. You know how they're always good on TNT.
I don't know if they're still that still applies, but
yeah, Lauri Markkanen will be out today. Chris Dunn will also be out with an excused absence from the team for tonight's game. Cameron Payne, the former Oklahoma City Thunder star.
Still in the league.
He's a real good dancer. Not really great at the whole basketball thing yet, but he'll be starting for the Bulls at point guard. But Binz, let's break down this Illinois football game against Wisconsin, number 23 team in the nation, best rushing attack in the Big Ten. Jonathan Taylor's obviously a freak. Do you give Illinois at all any chance to compete with the Badgers in Camp Randall?
A chance to compete, I think for sure they have a chance to compete. I mean, we've seen them play well against good teams before. I'd say they competed pretty well against Penn State when they played them here. Now, that was in Champaign as opposed to in Madison, which is one of the tougher places to play, I'd say, in the country, not just the Big Ten. And I do think that Wisconsin's style is going to be a lot harder for Illinois to stop, considering the strengths and weaknesses of their defense. They don't give the ball away a lot unless you're able to pressure Hornibrook, which Illinois has struggled for getting pressure on quarterbacks, not even the good ones. So I don't know. I mean, I think this is probably going to be a game, again, where the defense is going to struggle because we've seen all year they can't stop the run. I don't expect anything to change in these next coming weeks because the personnel is not going to change. So I would assume that they're going to continue to struggle against the run. And on Saturday, we're going to see just how bad it's going to get.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of an interesting situation because Dele Harding is going to play a little bit more. And we talked about personnel-wise. You're right. They're really not going to change too much, except Dele Harding is that third linebacker who can be on the field a little bit more to help stop the run. But we still really haven't seen Illinois be able to stop the run effectively at all. Miles Sanders from Penn State rushed for over 200 yards. Also in that game, Penn State had 2 guys that almost rushed over 100 yards. Trace McSorley and one other guy. There's their backup running back. And then against USF, Jordan Cronkite, the former Florida running back, he rushed for 136 yards. DJ Knox for Purdue rushes for 150 yards. So it's definitely a little bit of a challenge, but I will say this. I feel like Illinois matches up better with Wisconsin than they do against Purdue. And that sounds a little worse than what it is, but when you look at the matchups that Purdue had in the slot against the Illinois linebackers, those are very much causes for concern. And Purdue obviously had the talent outside, much more athleticism, much more talent. Isaac Zico's going up over Jartavius Martin and ripping balls away in the end zone. He had 5 catches for 136 yards and a couple touchdowns. Rondale Moore, it felt like you contained him, and you look up, he has 4 receptions for 101 yards too. So both of those guys were better athletes than anybody Wisconsin has out in the perimeter. But at the end of the day, you're not taking the ball away.
You're not gonna win the game.
I feel like, but for me, it feels like it comes down to the play of these Illinois linebackers today. Like if Jake Hansen gets back to the Jake Hansen that we saw in the first couple games where he's active and disruptive behind the line of scrimmage, and Delshon Phillips and Dele Harding can continue to be stout against the run, Illinois might be able to shut them down because this Wisconsin offense, they're not going to go throw it deep down the field. Alex Hornibrook has really struggled this year in certain times.
Yeah, and I think last week against Michigan, it really kind of highlighted really kind of the shortcomings of this Wisconsin team. I think that's why it's so important that Illinois kind of has a bounce back week, especially offensively, because if you're able to put this Wisconsin team behind early, make them throw the ball with Hornibrook, you're going to have chances to make plays in that secondary. And we've seen they've been opportunistic all year. So if they are going to beat this Wisconsin team, they can't fall behind early. They can't let Wisconsin establish the run. They have to be able to kind of maybe jump out in front, or at least like stay within puncher's range with whoever they've got at quarterback, with whatever they're doing offensively. But if they come out like last week against Purdue and they allow the Jonathan Taylor to get going early and they allow Wisconsin to control the clock and they don't respond on offense when Wisconsin goes on long drives, then it's going to be another long day.
I completely agree with that. And that's the thing that you see here. When you have this team and when you have the ability to get ahead of Wisconsin and put them in an odd situation, Alex Hornibrook's been so inconsistent this year. In a win over Iowa, a tough place to play at Iowa, against a good Iowa team, he had just 5 incompletions. He was 17 of 22 for over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's all well and good. Then you see what he did last week, where he was 7 of 20 passing. He had 100 passing yards, but if you watch that game, he had 25 passing yards for most of that game. 75 yards of those came late in the game. He had 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. So if you make Alex Hornibrook beat you, Illinois could have a chance. And that's where I want Lovie Smith and Hardy Nickerson to sell out against the run. Put 8 guys in the box, kind of like what Purdue did.
Yeah.
Trust your defensive backs to win one-on-one battles with the Wisconsin team that's lost their number 1 wide receiver due to a suspension that he'll be out for the entire year for a possible sexual assault.
Nice.
Lost their number 2 wide receiver to another suspension earlier in the year. Yes, it's not just Illinois who suspends their good players, right? And they have had very inconsistent tight end play because Fumagalli, their all Big Ten tight end last year, graduated. Yeah. There are chances. There are chances for this Illinois defense to step up. And we saw last year, Wisconsin didn't kill Illinois last year. That was a 24-10 ball game. Yeah. That was a lot closer than what that final score even seemed, which is 2-score game.
And that was with an Illinois offense able to put up 10 points.
Putrid.
Just one of the worst offensive teams I've ever seen in my life. So if they're able to go and do that last year, again, that was at home last year, right? That was in Champaign, right? Or was that at?
That was at home, yeah.
That was at home, yes. So again, that is at home, not on the road, but I do think, like we said, like the Wisconsin is a team that only blows you out if you let them. They're not a team that really kind of imposes their will if you're able to stop the run. And I think if Illinois is able to do that by, like you said, because we've seen Jake Hansen and Delshon Phillips be effective against the run, maybe not against some of the good teams, but I do really feel like if you put them in positions where they're not really having to make plays in space, if they're able to just like go forward and hit the guy ahead of them, they're pretty good at that.
Get your gap. But let's pivot to the offensive side of the football. Again, Wisconsin's top 2 safeties are both nicked up and haven't practiced at all this week. They both didn't play last week against Michigan. There's a very good chance that they're not going to be playing. Then you have so that means you're going to have 2 true freshman cornerbacks start, or 2 true freshman safeties. Then you look at cornerback and they have 1 guy who's a redshirt freshman who's kind of in his first year starting, and they're also going to have a junior at the other cornerback spot. How big of a game is this for AJ Bush against the second? This is a huge game for him because this is everybody was kind of piling on him after Purdue. Fair or not, right? Yeah. Fair or not, he didn't have much help against Purdue. Didn't make some throws. His wide receivers didn't help him out too much at all. But when you lose a game like that, everything goes to the quarterback, and now he's got to step up because MJ Rivers is the most popular kid in town right now.
Oh yeah, and I think I was about to say this might be for me. I mean, obviously my feelings on Rivers versus Bush are very well documented last show. But if I'm that's just me being an emotional fan and me being someone who really wants to see this Illinois program do well right now. And I really do feel like MJ Rivers gives them a better chance to win. But I do think for the coaching staff, you always have to take these kind of things slow. You're never going to see a guy get benched after 1 game, even if he should. This should be a put up or shut up game for AJ Bush because this is a secondary this is a team that's probably going to stack the box. They're probably going to do the same thing Purdue did because guess what? It worked on film last week.
Exactly.
So you're probably going to see a lot of the same looks Purdue gave you for Wisconsin front. That's way better than a Purdue front with a lot more playmakers up there. But on the other end, you've got guys in that secondary where you can really make plays happen. I think this isn't just a put up or shut up game for AJ Bush, but it's also a put up and shut up game for guys like Ricky Smalling, who really had a kind of a rough game against Purdue with that deep ball he wasn't able to track down, and really was just kind of a non-factor for the rest of the game. And I really think that for this Illinois receiving core, like if they really want to solidify the fact that they're going to be the guys into next year, they need to finish out this year playing a little bit better than they are right now.
And that's the thing. There's a lot of football left, and every single game is a big evaluation. And Ricky Smalling, I'm high on him still. What he's done the first half of the year certainly hasn't been the expectations that everyone else has had for him. But you're right. This is a game that he's going to have more experience than anybody else on the field. Yeah. He's going to have more. This is going to be his 18th game of his career. It's about time to start, going up against some Wisconsin defense against guys who haven't played a ton, and showing them that you've played in 18 Big Ten games, you've played in 3, and I'm going to show you the difference here. And then the other thing too is, we talk about getting off to a fast start, and Illinois did that against Purdue, but you need to sustain some drives early on. You cannot be going 3 and out and getting your defense right back onto the field again, because this Illinois defense has struggled all year long. I have not seen anything from them that makes me believe that they can turn that tide against Wisconsin.
They're going to be good against Wisconsin. Yeah, I don't think so either. And I think when it comes to sustaining drives, I think the big thing for Illinois is they can't shoot themselves in the foot, because right now this team is not talented enough to be converting 2nd and 15s or 1st and 15s or 1st and 20s or 2nd and 20s. They have to stay ahead of the sticks, and that means that they're going to have to be able to run the ball in early downs, even with Wisconsin stacking the box, eventually maybe going to some play action to kind of put them off balance. But I mean, the sustaining drive is all about continuing making good plays. And for Illinois, they have such a small margin of error with their offensive talent, especially at quarterback and at some positions on the outside and receiver and tight end, that they can't afford to have those guys that have such a small margin of error make mistakes, because that's going to completely kill the drive.
Good call there, Binz. And let's get some numbers here on this. This Wisconsin defense, they're 7th in the Big Ten in total defense. They give up 365 yards per game. I firmly believe Illinois will be able to move the ball against them.
Yeah.
It's about finishing, though, because when you go to scoring defense, this Wisconsin defense jumps up to 4th in the Big Ten. They allow just 20 points a game. When Illinois gets their chances in the red zone, they have to be able to convert, and they have to be able to convert touchdowns.
Yep.
They can't just do field goals. We're going to take one timeout. Eli Schuster, the other big-time part of this show, is about to hop in. We're going to talk Illinois basketball. We're going to talk some NBA coming up next. And so you should stick with us on the Illini Drive, WPGU 107.1. Welcome back to Illini Drive. Hey, Eli Schuster's now in the building. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm just doing great.
Awesome.
I'm so sorry I couldn't be here the first 15 minutes, but it's okay. I got to listen.
Some fresh vocal cords to help
I got to listen.
All right, now you have to let our audience know. You were talking to the chancellor of the University of Illinois. How'd that conversation go? Did he give you some insight?
No, nothing that we're going to talk about. Just It was a fun, nice dude. So we'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Well, we'll get back to sports. Before we pivot and talk basketball for the rest of the thing, we're going to go around the room, give our Illinois predictions for Wisconsin. Tati, you think you can pop in with a prediction here?
Has Tati been eating Nerds this entire show?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Because I just saw she was eating Nerds candy. And even
what
though we're on
else would
air.
I be doing?
Nothing. I just thought that was an interesting choice.
So let's go around the room. We're going to give our prediction for Illinois, Wisconsin, and give me a player where this game matters a lot. I feel like there's a lot of different options we could go with here. Binz, let's start off with you. Give me an Illinois, Wisconsin, and a player that needs to have a really good game if Illinois hopes to upset the number 23 team in the country.
Yeah, I think I already touched on this in the previous segment, but it's got to be AJ Bush. I mean, the offense kind of starts and ends with him. He's the quarterback. He is the one that kind of dictates who gets the touches, especially with the kind of read option offense they run. And based on last game, I mean, me and Eli, and we talked about this last show, but this should be his last chance. If he doesn't look good this game, it should be Rivers, and we should just get it over with.
I like
What's
that.
your prediction for scores?
Score prediction, I'm going to say Wisconsin 42, Illinois 28. I think Illinois is able to move the ball pretty well, but they're not going to be able to stop the run, and Wisconsin's going to score a lot.
Eli Schuster, let's get you involved, man. What you thinking?
How hot was Binz before I got here? On
I
this
was not hot.
Binz was not hot.
He kept
his
we were pretty.
All right, I'm always interested. No, for me, I think looking at this game, I think AJ's the obvious choice. For me, I'll pick somebody different just for good radio purposes, just to keep this conversation flowing. But I think that for me, I'm going to be looking at Ricky Smalling. I think that for this offense to flow, to operate, to put up the supposed 28 points that Binz has been putting up, someone's going to have to be doing it through the air, and AJ Bush's arm isn't great, but if he throws it in the direction of Ricky Smalling, a guy who has not had his best year, and, some of that goes on Bush, but also he's had several catchable balls thrown his way, and he's had his drops. So I think that this is a game that Ricky really needs to step up. He needs to show why heading into this year he was the number one receiver on the team, and he hasn't looked like one so far this season. So I think it's going to be huge for him to have a big game. Let AJ know that, hey, your arm, help AJ get his confidence back, I guess is the best way to put it, right? Be out there for him, let him throw the ball in your direction and come down with it. I think it's going to be big. This is going to be really hard to run the football against this Wisconsin team, which is what Illinois is best at, and so they're going to have to go through the air and throw it in the direction of Ricky Smalling.
Tati Perry. Oh, wait, hold on.
Score prediction?
Yeah, score prediction.
Man, I keep forgetting the score predictions. What's the spread on this game?
25 points is the spread right now. People up in Wisconsin are saying that a 25-point spread is not good enough because this Wisconsin offense is not 25 points better than Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough. I think that they could easily cover. I think, but they could also. It's such a situation here where Wisconsin's offense isn't that great. However, Illinois' defense is really bad, and they can run the ball. So I'm going to say that this goes let's say 35-14 game.
Okay. Tatiana Perry, what you got, man?
I know that everybody wants to say Bush, and I'm going to say Bush, but that's just because I think that he has the hottest seat on the team right now. He is the most about to lose his spot. I think I don't know. I think that we've got people that can do what he can do, and we've got somebody who can also throw the ball better than him. So, I just don't. I think this game he needs to either be fantastic or be on the bench.
Fair point.
That's about all I have to say about that. And as for score predictions, on yesterday's show, I was being a little harsh, and I said 54-3. But I decided to be nicer today.
That would be rough.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yesterday I
That's okay.
joined the other show.
I was on Monday's show. So.
Yeah, I heard. Wow.
Yeah.
So I decided to be less harsh today. I think they are gonna, do more than rely on Chase McLaughlin. I think they're gonna get maybe 14, but I don't think our defense can stop them in the slightest. So I do think it'll still be quite high in like the 48 range in scoring.
Wow. 48-14. All right, well, you guys went offense. I'm going defense. Jake Hansen needs to have a really good game. We saw in game 1 against Kent State, he had 6.5 tackles for a loss, which is an Illinois record for a single game. Played really, really well. But after that, he's kind of disappeared, and he's been really, really killed in pass coverage. This game against Wisconsin, he's not going to be tested in the pass coverage. He's going to be tested on how he can stop the run. I think he has to have a really, really big game if he wants to shut down Jonathan Taylor and this Wisconsin offense. On the other side, I feel like Illinois is going to be able to move the ball. Everyone talks about how this Wisconsin defense is good, but their numbers aren't that good. And their secondary, they're going to have both of their safeties are out. And they're going to be starting 4 true freshmen in their secondary. And all of their defensive linemen are new guys that haven't started at all last year. And their best pass rusher is out. And they rank 10th in the Big Ten in stopping the run, which is something that Illinois does really well. They give up over 160 yards a game on the ground. So I think Illinois will be able to move the ball. I'm just not convinced that with A.J. Bush under center, they're going to be able to turn some of those, good, promising drives into touchdowns. And when you don't have the weapons out on the perimeter, and when you don't have impact tight ends, and when your offensive line is still really young, that's a really big concern for me. So I'm going to go Wisconsin 40. I think Illinois covers. I think it'll be 40-20. But this game's going to be a little bit closer than people think. And I really don't think that Wisconsin's 25 points better. Because if Illinois plays the way they did against Rutgers, they can compete with Wisconsin. And I get that Rutgers is terrible. But if you're able to move the ball, when you're able to take the ball away like they did against Rutgers, Illinois is going to have a chance. Because this Wisconsin offense really isn't great. And Illinois is going to have their chances. But One more thing before we move to basketball. You guys have talked a lot about how much this game means for AJ Bush. What's a realistic stat line that you would be happy with that he does, where we're not coming in here on Tuesday and being like, okay, MJ Rivers needs to be the starter? Is it 300 passing yards? Is it, 250 yards of total offense and a couple touchdowns? Like, what would he have to do to solidify his place as a starting quarterback in your mind, Binz?
He needs to score points, and he can't turn the ball over, and that's one thing he did not do against Purdue. So, I mean, for me, I'm not going to look at a yardage number, a touchdowns number.
Okay.
I want Illinois to score over 20 points against Wisconsin, over 21 points. I want them to get at least 3 touchdowns.
Right.
And he can't have any turnovers. And if they do that, then I'll be fine. I don't care, as long as he doesn't look like horrible throwing the ball and they score 21 points when he has 0 passing yards.
Right.
Like as long as he looks fine, like an average Big Ten quarterback, which he did not against Purdue, I'll be fine.
So if Illinois loses 48,
even though I'll still want Rivers.
Illinois will lose 48 to say Illinois loses 48 to 24. Bush scores, 2 touchdowns on the ground, passes for 1 touchdown. Say he gets about 250 yards of total. Were you fine with that?
Then it would make sense to me why he'd start the next week if that.
Eli, are you kind of around that same boat, or what you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about how much he rushes the football in this game because I understand that we have running backs to do that. I mean, I know that running quarterbacks are great, but Illinois has got running backs to do that work for him, and 2 very solid running backs, right? I mean, technically it goes past those
all
2.
3, right?
Yeah, Rayvon Bonner has been really solid when he's been in the game,
and Dre Brown when he's healthy has been pretty solid.
Yeah, but I mean, your 2 core guys are Epstein and Corbin, and that's fantastic. I mean, that's a really dynamic duo, and so you have guys that can run the football. For me, I need to see Bush. I need to see him throw this football, and I need to see him throw, 2 touchdowns and maybe 250 yards plus. That's what I would love to see because I think, and I don't care.
That's not going to happen.
No, it's not. I agree with you. I don't think it will. But that's
if you're down by a lot, you might have a chance.
Sure, but then there's an asterisk next to all of it.
Right, it won't be 250.
If we're going over 200, all right. If we put the over under AJ Bush passing yards 212. Against Wisconsin, is that? Are you?
I think it's going to be. I think it's
well under.
I think it's going to be under too.
I'd say he gets like 130 to 175.
What I'm worried about is that he's going to get about 120 passing yards, and then he's going to rush for about 50 to 60 yards.
On a high volume of carries.
Yeah, on 50 to 60 yards, maybe on like
15 to 20 carries. That would be worst case scenario. That would be like I was
going to say 10 to 15 carries, but yeah, he's got between 50 60 yards on 10 to 15 carries. And I don't want him rushing for any touchdowns. Like I understand that you want to come away with touchdowns, but for me, because I think that just kind of messes up this.
I get what you're saying.
This makes the stat line for him foggy when people see, well, look, he had a touchdown though, and he rushed for that touchdown. And again, I don't care about his rushing. What I care about right now is his arm and his throwing. And I think that for Illinois to continue to win games down the road for the rest of the season, that's something he's going to have to learn how to do real quick. And so if he doesn't demonstrate that in this game against, you posed all the Isaac, all the problems that this Wisconsin defense has, and a lot of teams have stayed in games with this Wisconsin team, so that's why I will not be shocked if this game is close, like you say. But, you should be able to, against this weaker secondary right now, throw the football. And also, when you're coming off this terrible Purdue game, that should have been your focus throughout this week. So he needs to come in there and have a really nice game throwing the football. And that's what's going to do it for me. Otherwise, if you lose like what I said they were going to lose, around that 35-14 range, I'm still not impressed at all.
Yep. I'm right there with you. Some things you say about rushing the football, and I disagree a little bit. I think that AJ Bush is probably your best red zone target, best red zone weapon, just because he's 6'4", 225 pounds, does a lot of things there. But I get what you're saying. I understand where your premise is there. You have to be able to throw the football. It'll be a big test for AJ Bush and this Illinois weapon group on Saturday. We're going to pivot and talk a little bit of Illinois basketball. We're 3 weeks away from the season opener. I mean, honestly, it feels like football season has consumed me for so much for about the last, 3 months. I kind of lost a little bit how close basketball is. How fired up are you, Binz, that we're going to see some Tevian Jones lobs, and we're going to see Ayo Dosunmu on the floor in orange and blue, and Trent Frazier, year 2, we get him going.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on what I think this team will be and how good I think they'll be are pretty well documented on this show. I mean, I think they're going to be fun, and I don't know if that means they're going to be good, but I think they're going to be fun. And I think that it's exciting knowing that Illinois basketball is going to be fun because it hasn't been for a long time. Even if like good or bad, Illinois basketball has not been fun in a while. They haven't had guys who can play above the rim. They haven't had guys with the kind of swagger that they have now with Tevian Jones. Trent Frazier has swag. Ayo Dosunmu has his own kind of swag, I'd say. Georgi Bejanishvili has his own kind of swag. This is a team that has kind of a culture and a real kind of identity to them. And I really feel like a lot of, especially those late Gross era teams, really just were kind of like, well, let's just kind of roll the ball out and play. This team's going to get after you defensively. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. They're going to get out in transition. They're going to have some fun moments. I don't know if it's going to lead to a lot of wins, especially since their schedule is tough, but they're going to have some fun times.
There's going to be an open practice again this Saturday at 11 o'clock at the Evan Facility Center where you can head out there and watch the team practice. And you might want to stick around at 2 o'clock. A big-time recruit, Drew Timme, is in town this weekend. 5-star big, loves Brad Underwood. Brad Underwood, when he was at Oklahoma State, was the first coach to ever offer Drew Timme. And Drew Timme and Brad Underwood are really tight. He's on campus for an official visit. Eli, if you landed Drew Timme, how much would that change for 2019? That'd be a pretty nice start to this class of 2019 and make up for losing E.J. Liddell in a heartbeat.
Yeah, of course. I don't think they will, but I think that it's another recruit. I mean, there's just so many guys that you can name out there that are a change for this team, and there's, because of the situation that this team's in right now, any big time guy like that will do the trick for you. I mean, it'll be nice for you to get. So, I think it's a situation where I'm not going to get really high on it. I don't think anybody should. He's a very, very talented player. He's got a good chunk of offers to his name. And so I think that, Illinois has got a shot at him, but I wouldn't get too excited. But as of anybody would be a good addition. I just want to point that out. Anyone of his status.
As of right now, Illinois is he's listed as top 5, and Gonzaga's in the mix there. Arizona's in the mix there. Illinois is in the mix. Texas A&M is another one there. But it feels like it's a top 3 battle right now, and Illinois is right in the thick of it. Now you get your chance to shoot your shot, Brad Underwood and Jamal Walker, and it's time to land something like this. Binz, when we have looked at this team, and you and I were at practice for about 3 hours in that last open one, it feels like they're a big away from being able to compete. And you see Adonis De La Rosa starting to do more things. There's been some, there's some news that they think that he'll be back by about the middle of November. We're getting on the floor. If he's back by Maui, how big of an impact would that be for this team?
Yeah, I think it'd be big. It would be physically big. He's a physically large human.
7 foot, 265 pounds.
But at the end of the day, I need to see him play because anyone can look big. I mean, there's a lot of of 7 foot guys in basketball now. There's no shortage of big bodies, but I mean, if he actually does play the way Brad Underwood says, Brad Underwood's preached about this guy's basketball IQ, this guy's leadership. He called him a basketball savant when we talked to him.
He does that well, though. Brad likes to brag about every single one of his players.
But I mean, at the end of the day, if Adonis De La Rosa grad transfer, this is a guy who's been through just about every sort of basketball situation you can possibly see. So if he comes in and gives them at least just like a big body who can rebound and protect the rim, like we've been saying all along.
He's what you want in a grad transfer.
Yeah. If he can just come in and give them a year of rebounding and blocking shots, then great.
Yeah.
And that'll help them out a lot.
If he scored 6
make them an upper half of the Big Ten team.
If he scored 6 points and gave you 4 rebounds, I think Illinois fans would be.
I would hope he can give you at least that if he's going to start. 6 points and 4 rebounds. That's like Michael Finke numbers.
Here's the thing about him is like I think he's exactly what you want in a grad transfer. However, Mark Allstork kind of was also what the team thought they exactly wanted in a grad transfer. So I'm always skeptical. AJ Bush was exactly what people thought they wanted. But I think it's always skeptical with the grad transfer.
You gotta see him play.
That's the biggest thing that it comes down to. You got to see him play. I understand that he's shed some weight. He's looking better. He's looking fit. But at the end of the day, I mean,
it could be Mike Thorne.
He's coming off a very major injury, and he's way ahead of schedule.
And those injuries that happen to bigs are the hardest things to overcome. Notoriously problematic. Yes. So it could be exciting, but. And Isaac, you say if he scores, 6 points and 4 rebounds? I mean, if he's starting, I expect way more than that.
Well, the reason I only say 6 points and 4 rebounds, and, as the season gets closer, I'm sure we're going to have a segment where we predict, what the season numbers are for everybody, and that'll be really fun. But what I'm thinking 6 points and 4 rebounds is because Adonis De La Rosa is not going to play a ton. He's only going to be out the floor for 20 minutes probably at the very most, because you're going to probably have Georgie in the mix there for 15, and then that last 5 is probably a couple minutes of Kipper at the 5 and a couple minutes of Samba Kane at the 5. So that's more where I'm seeing that number.
Well, I just think if he starts, he's someone that you need the production to be a little bit better than that.
And the other thing about that rebound number to me is that with this team, when he's going to be out there, he's probably going to be the only rebounder on the floor. So every single minute he's out there, he's going to be, outside of the guards, who they do have good rebounding guards.
And unless you have like Kipper in there at the same time.
Players. He's going to be the only guy above probably 6'8" on the floor when he's out there. Maybe he'll be out there with Georgie. Maybe they'll throw him out there with Samba. I would assume not, especially the way that this team is constructed. They're going to want to keep those perimeter guys on the floor as much as possible. But his rebound percentage numbers have to be good, because when he's out there, even if he doesn't have a high volume of rebounds, he needs to be able to get the available rebounds to him, because he's going to be the only guy out there that's going to be getting.
Can I say one thing? This is just kind of a comparison that I've thought about recently that I like about this team, right? And Brian, you kind of brought it up earlier, is the Gross era teams that we saw during his end of his time here.
They were just so nothing.
Well,
no
those
identity.
Teams,
no identity at all.
To me, those teams were kind of like the San Francisco Giants baseball this year.
Sure.
In the sense that they were just kind of, you had these guys, you had this you had Malcolm Hill, you had some of these pieces that you were like, this is good, right? And the San Francisco Giants this year, they got these guys. They got Andrew McCutchen at the beginning of the year. They had Evan Longoria and Madison Bumgarner, and they're just like, look, we're going to be really good this year. And that was kind of every year of the Gross era. It was just like, look at what we have. We have these pieces.
Coleman Lands is good.
And you're like,
Malcolm Hill is good.
And then for
these people should work together.
Yeah, for the San Francisco Giants, you're like, well, that was a 2012 All-Star team. And it just kind of felt
Mark Melanson's our closer.
Yeah, and it just kind of felt like when you looked at this year's team, or the Gross era teams, you thought to yourself, that's a team there's nothing special about that team. There's nothing great.
It's just a basketball
It's kind
team.
of boring.
There's nothing exciting. There's nothing unique about them.
And you could try to sell it as there is, but at the end of the day, the San Francisco Giants this year were not a great baseball team, and those were not a great basketball team.
Those were not good basketball
And now
teams.
currently what you have is more of like this new era Yankees feel, where you try to have and the production's not going to be there, but you have these shiny new toys, and you're like, look, we signed Giancarlo Stanton, and they're just like, oh, look, we have Ayo DeSumo, right? And we have all these pieces. We have like Aaron Judge, and Aaron Judge is your Trent Frazier of the situation. You're like, we brought him up. Look how good he's been. Look at this, and it's the same thing with Trent.
Look at our evaluation. Look what we've done here.
Yeah, and so you kind of have that. You have that shiny new feeling, and while while the Yankees have done what they've done and they've been good, they still haven't gotten to the point that a lot of people thought they would with these type of teams, or like be really, really heavily competing for the World Series. And that's what I think you're going to see from a team like this, right? This year, they're not going to be competing, I don't think, for a tournament at the end all be all. But you got a lot of fun, shiny new players, and you're going to have you could have a fun, like when you say about a fun team, you're going to have those monster home runs. You're going to have some of those shiny new plays when you lob it up to Tevian Jones and you have that dunk. And that's what's going to be fun about this team. It's like watching the Yankees. They're just going to mash home runs, right? And that's what you expect when you watch them.
That's the most fun baseball.
And that's the most fun. And so hopefully with this team, what you could expect when you watch them this year is they may not win the game, but they're going to have some really, really fun moments to watch.
Good stuff there. Again, if you want to go out and watch this team practice, 11 o'clock on Saturday at Ubben, the doors will be open. You can come in and watch Brad Underwood yell at all of his players, and you can see the team get up and down the floor a little bit and get a look at some exciting new faces. We're going to take one final timeout. When we get back, it's time to talk some NBA. We'll talk some NBA rookies. We'll maybe give some hot takes off of our first game on like what teams look absolutely terrible and are not going to be good, even though they'll probably
the Rockets are done.
Right.
Break up the Rockets. They'll
probably be okay. But
Start Carmelo. No.
we have so much stuff to break down. I can't wait to get into it. And stay with us on Illini Drive, WPGU 107.1. Welcome back to Illini Drive. We've talked a little bit of Illinois football. They'll take on Wisconsin this week in Camp Randall, 11 o'clock on FS1 on Saturday. You can watch that.
Or not.
We've also talked Illinois basketball. Or not. That might help. We talked a little Illinois basketball. They'll have an open practice on Saturday at 11 o'clock. If you decide to not watch the football game, go watch Illinois basketball practice, and then you don't have to worry about how many rushing yards Wisconsin is accumulating.
Just check your phone and then get it.
What time's the game at? 11?
11 o'clock.
Oh, okay, good.
So
the Maryland one's at 2:30.
Right. They're both at the same time.
Yeah.
But now it's time to talk a little NBA. The NBA's gotten off to a pretty solid start. Everything got going on Tuesday night. The Golden State Warriors looked pretty solid. Oklahoma City looked really good, even without Russell Westbrook. And then, of course, last night we saw a lot of rookies that played. DeAndre Ayton made his debut with the Phoenix Suns. He looked like a #1 pick. Luka Doncic looked pretty solid, too, in his little bit of time that he was playing. And then, of course, Trae Young made his debut. Didn't look so hot there for the Atlanta Hawks. But tonight, LeBron makes his debut with the Los Angeles Lakers. He'll be battling Myers Leonard and the Portland Trail Blazers tonight.
Myers Leonard.
You can also watch the Bulls season opener, or, well, you probably don't want to watch that one either. They'll play
Not
the
when
Sixers.
Cameron Payne is your starting
I know. I was saying that earlier.
Get excited about Cameron
You
Payne.
could see some real solid dance moves from Cameron Payne at the beginning, but not
and
much
probably
good basketball.
Joel Embiid during the game.
Awesome stuff.
When he's putting Wendell Carter in the basket.
All right, so we've had 2 games in, boys. Which team has been the most impressive team? I want a hot take right away on. Is Houston going to be terrible? Are the Pelicans the next coming of Jesus? Like, what's the new hot take that you take away from the first 2 days of NBA basketball?
Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about most impressive teams, I think the Pelicans are on top of the list. I mean, they go into Houston and just absolutely
My MVP.
They just go ahead. I mean, yeah. I mean, Anthony Davis looks like he's ready to take that step and be one of the best, I'd say, 2 players in the league, right behind LeBron, if he continues to play at this level offensively and defensively. And I will say that there's no point in overreacting to that Rockets game because I do feel like the Pelicans are a pretty bad matchup for the Rockets with Randall, Mirotic, and
also, I'm unsure if Mirotic is going to be dropping 30 points.
Yeah.
He's not going to hit 6 threes every single game.
But I mean, if you are going to point to a weakness for the Rockets, it's definitely their front court. After you get past Capella, they really don't have a lot there as far as size and talent goes. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me in the least that the Pelicans were able to give him that kind of trouble. But I mean, Anthony Davis has taken this step. I mean, we've seen him kind of take steps before, but this really looks like, I mean, after last year and going into this year, there's a lot of noise about was he ready to become one of the best 3 players in the league? And I think so far it's proven that answer is yes.
Another thing that was really interesting to see is Toronto played their first game with Kawhi Leonard, and he played pretty well. Had 24 points, helped them win.
13 rebounds.
Yeah, and then DeMar DeRozan plays his first game with the Spurs, gets the game-winning jumper over Jimmy Butler and the rest of the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Who actually didn't look that bad.
Right, who didn't look that
somehow.
Also, first shot of the Timberwolves season was Butler to Wiggins for 3.
Which was an air ball, I think.
No, I think that he made the 3.
Did he make it?
I thought he made it.
Like
No. He airballed it out of it.
All I know is that
It
Butler.
looked like it went in, but it hit the side of the backboard.
Okay, all I know is that Butler passed the ball to him, so it was shocking.
For a wide open 3.
But a pretty interesting debut. That trade looks like it worked out pretty well for both teams after one day. DeMar DeRozan does a lot of good things for the Spurs. I think he's gotten over his, little bit of, he was kind of hurt by what Toronto did, but now he gets to be with the best coach in all of basketball.
I don't know if he got over it. Maybe he's playing with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
I think the thing that DeRozan really brings to Spurs is that after they lost their their best 2 point guards to injuries before the season, last year DeRozan took a big step forward as far as distributing the ball, and that's why the Raptors were such a exciting offensive team, and that bench was so good because when they played with DeRozan, he really kind of playmade. He was a playmaker. That's what I'm
there you go.
say.
Words are hard.
Yeah, he was a playmaker for them, and I think that on the Spurs now they don't have point guards. He's kind of shifted into that full-time playmaker role where he's going to be not only scoring like he showed he can do at the end of the games, but he's also a guy who's going to be getting guys like LaMarcus Aldridge and Pau Gasol the easier looks.
I will say, I think that, and Isaac and I think spoke about this last night. I think that what's crazy right now about the West is look at some of those teams. Look at the teams last year who weren't very good or weren't really in playoff contention. And right now, every West team, you can make a case for making the playoffs. There's a way they can which is incredible.
Playoffs.
Yeah, I think that the Mavericks are with getting DeAndre Jordan and Luka Doncic are right in it, or can be right in it, right? If they have their production, if everything falls the right way.
If Harrison Barnes gets healthy, right.
The Suns can 100% be right in it. I mean,
they
when you have a
looked really
talent,
impressive last night.
when you have a talent like Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton last night, I was pleasantly surprised with how well he played. He looks like he's going to be perfectly fine, very consistent. And then honestly, honestly, I think very underrated on that team is Trevor Ariza. I think that Trevor Ariza came to that team. He's got a great role.
And they got Josh Jackson.
They got Josh Jackson, who's going to take a nice step up this year. But then also, who'd you sign yesterday and is your backup it's going to be your sixth man, right? Jamal Crawford is going to be coming off, and he's
still get buckets.
But he could definitely still get buckets and lead your second unit. So the Suns are going to be a very interesting team to watch. And so you have the Mavs Suns, two teams that were not in it last year that could very well be in contention this year. The Nuggets are going to be right there again, and then the Timberwolves will also keep staying right there.
And the Clippers just drafted a really good point guard.
I think the Clippers are the only team that I would say the Clippers.
The Clippers have a lot going wrong.
The Clippers got a lot going wrong, and they have a team of nobodies. But I think that's the only team that you probably can say
the Kings
aren't
close.
The Kings aren't close. Maybe those are the two, but like Portland could still be in it. You can't ever rule out a team when you have Lillard and you have McCollum. So I think that it's crazy how good the West is, and I think, Isaac, what we were talking about is we're kind of like, is the West really as good as it is? And it's like we look through the teams, it's like yes it is. When you look through it, it's like it's very, very talented.
After the Celtics, Sixers, and Raptors and the Pacers,
that's what we talked about.
A straight cliff in the
and we didn't even mention the Jazz in the West.
Yeah,
right?
Or the Jazz are so good.
The Pelicans, right? And so
or Oklahoma City.
But when you're looking at the East,
or Golden State,
are they good?
Those up and coming underdogs.
Yeah, when you have an East where the Bulls could be your 8. It's not.
If the Bulls play well enough offensively and are able to cobble together something defensively, they could easily be like a 5
with
or
Markkanen
6
coming back and everybody getting healthy. Yeah, they could be a. I think
the
they're
bottom
half.
half of the East.
Their ceiling, I think their ceiling for me
7.
is 6, probably for me, just because a lot of things can go wrong in the East. But the East, you have your competitive teams are going to be that are right at the top, right? Are going to be Celtics, 76ers. Then I think you have Pacers. Then I think you have Raptors, and then after that it goes into toss.
Bucks.
Maybe the Bucks.
Well, you have the Bucks, who I think are okay. The Bucks are probably 5th, but then you get a toss up going, and you could have a lot of weird stuff go
with the Wizards, with the Heat,
with the Wizards, the Heat,
the
Bulls, and even like the Nets. Maybe you don't know what's gonna happen. So the East is interesting for that reason, but it's also
the Magic are
lopsided.
Obama's fun, and he has a banger named after.
See, okay, all right. So I'm looking at all these rookies last night, and I'm watching various ones. And I'm watching highlights this morning. How in the world did Marvin Bagley go 2? That is seriously shocking to me after I see this.
Because it's the Kings. What kind of question are you asking? That's all you need to know.
I'm saying,
that's your answer.
What in the world did the Kings see in Marvin Bagley that they go, yeah, he's better than Mo Bamba. Yeah, he's better than Luka Doncic. Yeah, he's better than Jaren Jackson Jr.
Better than a guy on his own team, Wendell Carter Jr. Who's going to be better day one anyway.
Sure. Let's not lie, though. Isaac and I were at the Sweet 16 last year. We watched Duke play, and you as we sat there, you were talking about how good Marvin Bagley is, and I remember we were talking about how good Marvin Bagley is. So there was hype always around Marvin Bagley, and I think
the number one recruit.
And I think at the time, now we can sit here in hindsight's 2020, and we could sit here and say that. But at the time, and even when the draft conversation was going on, people went.
I was never on the
well, no, I understand. I was never on it too as I got closer to the draft. But people were like, "Oh yeah, the Kings are thinking about taking Bagley," and everyone's like, not a great idea. But
big
also
that can't defend? No, thank you.
Yeah, but people were also just like, "Yeah, but Bagley's top 5. It makes sense. Like he's gonna be." So I think you could probably say even if he went 3rd, you'd be like, what are they doing thinking of taking him 3rd and all this stuff? But there was a lot of hype around him. And yeah, as he went in the preseason and he played, everyone's kind of like, maybe we were a little too high on this guy. And there's always that guy in the draft. But I think it's important to note everyone was very high.
Sure. Here's the thing about Bagley for me is that he's a very fun player. The dude can jump.
Score.
The dude can dunk.
The dude
can score. He can shoot a little bit. He's got a really good handle for a guy who's as tall as he is, and he's athletic as heck. And he was super fun in college. Duke had a lot of talent, and that let him kind of showcase his. But he can't shoot with his right hand. He literally only has moves going to his left. I don't think whenever I watch him play, every single time, and his first basket last night was a left-handed hook, and that was the only highlight I saw of him the whole night. And I think it's just incredible how the Kings continue to find ways to blow these things.
Hey, Darren Fox is their best pick.
They have Doncic sitting right there, and he would have fit perfect next to De'Aaron Fox. And he's basically in the same situation except for on a bet.
Yeah, but the Hawks are a bunch of idiots too.
Right.
Because Doncic looks like he's going to be great.
At least the Hawks traded down though; they got some value.
That's true.
And they ended up with Trae Young, who they were probably going to take anyway. So I mean, it's just insane to me. The Kings are just such a horribly managed franchise, and Marvin Bagley's just another staple on a long list of mess ups.
Speaking of Luka Doncic, I'm watching him play last night, and yeah, his 0 for 5 from 3, and he's like 5 of 14 from the field. But I watch him play.
Behind the back pass to DeAndre Jordan.
I watch him play, and I go, yeah, he's going to be just fine. He has
the shooting will come.
Right.
Shooting will come.
And he, I get the James Harden comparison. I watch him. That's his comp, and I kind of get that. Just that big-bodied point guard can see the floor, pushes the ball in transition. Really, really good passer. I think he's going to be really good with Dennis Smith Jr. Jaren Jackson looked really good in his limited time there. Kevin Knox was a guy I know that you're really high on him. He looked a little inefficient, but I think he'll have a good role for the Knicks. But what other rookies caught your eye yesterday, Binz?
What other rookies caught my eye?
There's one guy we're missing out on.
I watched most of the Knicks game, and a guy I really like is Mitchell Robinson, and Alonzo Trier as well.
Alonzo
I watched
Trier.
The Knicks game. I know that was probably the answer everyone was looking for, but I really do think that Mitchell Robinson really fits what this Knicks team is going for, which is long, athletic guys who can play both ends. And I think both him and Trier help give this Knicks team a little more swagger, because you look at Alonzo Trier, extremely athletic guy, just a great scorer, a guy who has NBA moves already. I mean, I was watching him isolate on the wing against NBA defenders, and he was able to create separation and make a shot for himself, which is a super, super valuable thing in today's NBA, is having a wing who can do that kind of stuff. So I think the Knicks have a really fun young core between Robinson and Trier, and those are two guys that really stood out to me yesterday.
I think that we brought up the Clippers, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I mean, the dude, I don't know his stat line from that game. All I know is
he had 11 points on 5 of 6 shooting with 6 assists and 5 rebounds.
Well, there you go. I was
pretty solid debut.
Solid debut, but I know he had a flashy bucket in his first one of the day, and I think that it's just funny because when you look at the Clippers, he could be the best player on the Clippers. So,
Tobias Harris is probably more proven, of course.
Sure, but he's in the conversation this year to be the best player on the Clippers, and so he's gonna.
Gortat doesn't get you excited?
No, sadly not.
Patrick Beverly.
I think that he could have a great year, and if he's putting up the numbers that he's putting up, I mean, if he starts to expand, this is a guy that people will talk about for a Rookie of the Year conversation if he's just the leading charge on this team. So I think that, and he's got all the chance in the world too, being at the point guard spot, commanding that offense. I think that he could be a really, really solid player, and it'll be exciting to watch him.
Of course, we'll get to see Wendell Carter Jr. make his rookie debut for the Bulls in just a little bit. Coming into the draft, I didn't love Wendell Carter, but as I watched more film and as I saw him play a lot more and I kind of dissected his film a little bit more, I thought, yeah, he's a really good fit with Lauri Markkanen. What are the expectations for you tonight, Eli? I mean, you're a Bulls guy. You can watch Wendell Carter. We went and watched him play with Duke last year and then the Sweet 16. How excited are you for this opener, getting the chance to start at center over Robin Lopez for the Bulls?
Excited's the wrong word. I wouldn't say I'm excited for the Bulls opener.
But for Wendell Carter.
For Wendell Carter, yeah, it'll be fun. I really like him. I liked him when they said that the Bulls that was the guy that they were kind of targeting. I never minded it. I thought that was a fine pick for where they were. I kind of had high hopes for him. He seemed talented. He seemed to offer some things that some other bigs don't, and that was what kind of was intriguing about him. But I don't know. It'll be fun to definitely watch him play. It's good that he's getting that start, getting that chance. He's gonna have a lot of opportunities while Markkanen is out to kind of be the guy.
Not gonna face many better centers than Joel Embiid.
Welcome to the league.
Oh, exactly.
Wendell Carter Jr.
But I think the funny thing about it is that if there's any kind of rookie going up against Embiid on their first go, I'm fine with it being Wendell Carter Jr. Just because I think that Wendell Carter has this weird maturity and weird, and it's weird in a
for
good
a 19-year-old?
but this weird maturity and weird kind of completely fine and I'm comfortable with confidence about him, where if he goes up to Embiid and he goes up for a shot and gets blocked, he's probably going to just laugh and move on. And I like that
and
about
shoot
him.
Again
That's
the
the
next
type of guy that he looks like he is, and he seems like a fun dude. So I think it was a great pick for the Bulls for where they were. It's going to be really exciting to watch him. There's a lot that is wrong with this team and that could go wrong with this team, but there's a lot that could go right. It's one of those really 50-50 teams this season, so it's going to be fun to watch.
It's so funny. I looked at a tweet earlier this week, and it said, just another reminder of how young Wendell Carter is. He told reporters around the Bulls, the organization, that the guy he modeled his game after when he was growing up was Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid is 24 years old. So that kind of shows you how young he is and what type of
Well,
opportunity.
you know what I loved last night
when we're
talking about age. What I loved last night was watching Jalen Brunson stand next to Tyson Chandler, and they're standing at the free throw line, and Chandler kind of gives him a pat on the back, and then Chandler boxes him out to get the when the free throw goes up, and it's just to me that's amazing because I grew up in an area very close by Jalen Brunson. I mean, he lived in my town, in my neighborhood. He went to he went to the high school that was neighboring to mine, and so it was a guy that you knew about, you heard about. And we're the same age, and it's just so funny to think about when you watch that game, him in a Mavericks uniform standing next to Chandler, a guy who's been in the league for what?
18 years.
18 years.
Yeah.
Played on the Bulls.
A guy
with
that
Jordan.
Yeah.
He played on the Bulls with Jordan and Pippen.
So a guy that you see around this league for over a decade, and the two of them stand next to each other, and that's I think what's always really cool about basketball. But also, I mean, you do see that in some other sports, but when you see it in basketball, it's a lot of fun, and it's really cool for some of those guys because when you're able to have like a Jalen Brunson come into the league and play up against a Chandler or play up against a Vince Carter in the future, possibly. Think about how cool that must be for him.
I mean, look at Trae Young and Vince Carter are starting in the same backcourt together for Atlanta.
You can only imagine how that feels for him.
Well, and another thing that's really interesting, speaking of Jalen Brunson, he hits that three yesterday, and he finished with 3 points and 3 rebounds in the Mavericks loss to the Suns, and he played about 19 minutes, played well off the bench, but he hits the three, and Dirk
played in crunch time.
Dirk Nowitzki's the one coming out to give him a high five. That's just
crazy.
insane. And what if John Gross had been able to close that thing down?
We're done talking Illinois basketball for now.
Once upon a time, Jalen Brunson told John Gross that he was coming to Illinois.
I will say, Professor G. McDonald at this university never lied when she said that you could always find a University of Illinois connection in any story that you're approaching.
And there we are.
And there we come back around.
Very true. Again, LeBron will get his debut again to get started tonight against Portland. Myers Leonard will try to get on the floor for the Trailblazers, and then the Sixers and the Bulls.
That's the status of University of Illinois basketball.
What has John Gross done to this program, man?
That's the best Illinois prospect in the game right now. Myers Leonard, who is the fourth big for Portland.
Hey, when the Bulls go and sign Brandon Paul and he just goes off.
Hey, I know. I've heard this multiple times that if any destination would be good for Myers Leonard, it would be the Bulls. And they think that him backing up, he could take Cristiano Felicio's role, backing up Robin Lopez and backing up Lowry Markkanen, and Leonard would do the job. But it'll be interesting to see that. Plenty of basketball to go on tonight. Again, Illinois plays on Saturday, 11 o'clock kickoff in Wisconsin. Illinois basketball, we've said it multiple times. Open practice, 11 o'clock at Ubben on Saturday. But boys, we have 2 minutes left in the show. We got to talk a little bit of baseball before we go out.
We do?
Yes, we do. Game 5 tonight, Boston and Houston. Quick take, Eli Schuster. Does Boston end this series tonight in Houston?
No. I have said that my World Series thoughts were Astros-Dodgers.
Right.
So I'm thinking that it's going to be really hard for that to happen now. But I think no, it's not impossible, and I think that the Astros could win tonight. I mean, they were on the verge of winning last night, except
and the night before.
Well, did you see how the game ended?
Yes.
Yes. So one of the most remarkable catches in postseason history was made to end that.
And another near catch that happened earlier with a fan getting involved was a pretty interesting
that one, and then also it was funny because the inning prior, Josh Reddick had what you thought would be the best catch of the playoffs, and then Benintendi comes out and he makes one of the best, maybe top 10 catches you'll ever see in the history of baseball.
Really good story on Yahoo Sports about Andrew Benintendi's catch there. And then the quote was, the pitch before that, Andrew Benintendi moved one step in and a half step over, which helped him catch that ball. He said, if I didn't make that, that a little minor adjustment, he doesn't catch that.
His closing speed to dive and catch that ball was remarkable. But if I'm the Red Sox, I'm concerned about my closing situation.
Sure.
Because all Red Sox fans on Twitter seem to be very concerned that they were going for a 6-out save there. there with Kimbrel. So that didn't seem to work out. Luckily, it did because his butt was saved. But I will say tonight, I think that the Astros will probably win this one.
I'm with you.
It'll be tough now for them to win this series, though. But in the NL, Dodgers. I'm thinking Dodgers are going to the World Series. That's what I've said. For if anyone was from the NL was going to get there, I said it was going to be the Dodgers, and that's what it's looking at. Right
Dodgers
now.
Are up 3 games.
Or well, someone from the NL was have to, of course, be there. But out of these teams, I thought it could be the Dodgers.
Dodgers are up 3-2 over Milwaukee. That series will have Game 6 tomorrow. Game 5, Boston and Houston. That'll get going in about 9 minutes on TBS as Houston tries to make it to a Game 6. They're down 3-1. But boys, that's a show. Really, really excited about everything we talked about today. Thanks to Eli Schuster. Came in a little late, but still dropped some fire heat. Thanks to Brian Binz for doing what he does. Tatiana Perry. Congrats to you for producing just another standout show.
Tati's the best.
She really is. I'm Isaac Trotter. Thanks for joining us on Illini Drive. Join us again next Tuesday. We'll talk a lot of Illinois football in Wisconsin, probably Illinois basketball, and take you around the sports world. Thanks for listening to us on WPGU 107.1.